And action.
Bro, we're
What's
back.
going on to episode 4 of the Paper Trail podcast, where everything has a paper trail. So we follow that, and that's how we get our content.
Yes,
Today
sir.
is it's another good day. It's another
Mm-hmm.
good day. Do you want to tell them why, Grant?
What do you mean, bro? Like, just another day, bro. You always do this. Like,
Guys,
this has been two times you've asked me what's different.
ha- has the audience noticed there's a third screen?
He's down
Ooh,
here for me.
right down there for me too. We have Neswin, who is a guest speaker today. You guys get two guest speakers back to back. So just
Dang.
like the last time, make sure you're tuning in and make sure you turn your volume up. There's going to be a lot of good nuggets. And if you miss any of those nuggets, rewind the video because you was not listening. Make sure that you're tuning in.
Them chicken
Make
nuggets,
sure that
bro.
you're actually listening to the stuff. Chicken nuggets. I know you guys, the dinosaur ones
The,
too.
the dino
Make sure
nuggets,
you're
bro.
listening in. Next one is Neswin is, let's start with like how we even met Neswin. Right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How
It's
how
not
did
through
I
code.
meet Neswin? I
Not through
know
code this
Neswin
time.
joined the server. No, what? Well, I don't think it was through code. I think
Not through code
Neswin
this time.
joined our server. And
No,
you
it's from
joined.
Goat. It's
Oh,
from
from
Goat.
code. Okay,
It's from
so
Goat. Yeah.
back to code. Back to code. So
Oh God.
code is like an invisible man to you guys, but trust me,
Soon.
he's the reason why this whole thing is what it is. He invited you to the server. I remember you joined the voice chat. You started talking, and I was like, "Oh, this guy is definitely Filipino." Like, I can hear the accent, so I think I hit him with like "Como está acá?" and he's like, "Oh, Bo." And then we just started going from there, talking. Um, I spent time in the Philippines, a lot of time actually. I lived there for a little bit, um, and so I got to meet a lot of Filipinos, completely different island,
Mm.
but they all speak similar in my opinion. Um, yeah, I think that's how we met through code.
Yeah, true
How
quote.
did you meet code? That's when.
Oh, so when I was a beginner in cybersecurity, I was scrolling through Discord communities, and I saw this Discord server named Cybersec Students, and I met code from there where I was like zero knowledge. I don't know Linux. I don't know any networking, and he's one of the people who helped me out to clarify in my journey, and we became kind of close and friends then. Well, I was chatting with him in DM, and he just said, "Hey, did I invited you to Hatch Network server?" I said, "No, I don't know that server," and then I just joined.
Nice. Dang. This is awesome,
Yeah,
dude.
Oh,
This is so cool.
oh man, he got it
Dude.
all together. And now, man, this guy's working himself. He's a busy man himself.
We'll have him
Started
soon.
a
yeah,
legacy and took off.
Man, so but he's no stranger. Neswin is no stranger to Pap. I mean, you guys have had a video together, very good video. I still have yet to finish it myself, but this is not y'all's first time doing the tango, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the new generation, by new generation, I mean any generation younger than me. So like a lot of you guys out there. Um, I think there in that new generation, there are some intelligent people,
Absolutely.
and intelligence has a debatable definition, right? When I say intelligence, I mean people who will be willing to put in the hard work and be willing to go out and start setting plans for their future. That is, the intelligence that I'm talking about. And I think Neswin is one of those people who he may not be there yet, but he does have a plan, on, okay, what do I want to do after high school? If that doesn't work, what are some backup plans? How can I make sure I'm networking now so that later I'm not stuck looking for a job
Hmm.
with no one in my network. Things like that that you don't realize until it's too late. He's already capitalizing on, and he already started early. So the point of that video on my channel, in case anyone hasn't seen it, feel free to go to my channel. We'll throw that in the description and check out that video.
A lot of nuggets
Was his
there.
experience so far, what he's been doing now to be proactive for the future, something that as humans, just even outside of cybersecurity, we have failed at. Not all of us, but a lot of us have failed at and waited till it was too late. That's when it's capitalizing now, and I just think that that's inspirational.
Absolutely. Tell us about yourself.
Um,
And that's one. How old are you, bro?
Yeah, I'm 16 only.
16 years old, and he's
Yeah.
super proactive. Give us your intro, man. Tell us about you. What do the people need to know? What do people need to know about Neswin, bro?
Yeah, I'm just a security researcher and a developer, aspiring red teamer from Philippines. Like what Pop said, I'm a Filipino. I possess a diverse skill set, including interpersonal,
Hmm.
industry knowledge, and knowledge in various tools and technology. But my curiosity is more of malware development and red teaming, and specifically the adversary simulation because I'm into this evasion stuff, phishing, red team engagements. But of course, for now, I can do that since as a beginner or as a intermediate or novice, you can just jump straight into red teaming.
Nice. No, Neswin is brilliant. I was having trouble with Hack the Box, the Linux box, and he just like, hey, bro, jump on a call real quick. And he just had to help me because I mean that's incredible. 16 and way ahead of a bunch of people in the industry. And no excuses, man. I mean, you're in the Philippines and you're just doing great. And I'm inspired. I'm actually inspired, and I thank you, Pat, for introducing us. Go check out his video.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And where you I want to ask this for you, Neswin. Since our video, since the interview that we had on our channel, which was probably about 2 months now, how have you progressed? What are some things that you're doing now that you haven't been doing, roughly 2 months ago? And how's that been going for you?
Oh yeah, I really, humbly speaking, I did progress because when I mentioned the bug hunter pot from Hack the Box when I started it and when I was the previous one whenever I am doing hacking stuff. Do you guys know that my note taking method is just copy, copy, paste? Then after reflecting on some weeks, I was like, "What the hell I'm doing? Is this making any sense?" Then I message my friends and I ask them, "Hey man, how do you take notes? How do you do this and that?" Then I realized when I finished the bug hunter path. Man, my note taking is really, really horrible because it's like, why am I even copying their content? So
Mhm.
what I did on the note taking method is one specific note on Obsidian. It
Yep.
contains the context of the vulnerability, the mitigation, and where to test. Just that summary, and I make my own write up on how I solve every lab, and I dive deeper into this in every this in every web vulnerabilities. Then whenever my friends ask how this XSS works, SQLi, I was able to understand it more efficiently because I am reflecting, I am diving deeper on how these vulnerabilities work. So in this past months, my progress has been more focused on the web hacking and the note taking stuff.
Incredible.
and I also and I also gained the mindset of why, how
Mhm.
does this work, and why does this payload work? Why does this injection operating work? Yeah, that's all.
Nice. No, how it's important to do note taking. Coat had to teach me how to do note taking on Obsidian, and that is invaluable. Note taking and understanding the steps that you're taking and when solving these boxes, because even I have to refer back to my old notes on how to do Nmap and IP scan and all that kind of stuff. So that no,
Yeah.
that's really smart.
Absolutely. And you hit on a key term, right? Note taking. That's a key term for cybersecurity. Doesn't matter what domain you go in.
Absolutely.
Um, Note taking is going to be not only the bane of your career, but it's also going to be very important for your career, right? Like I tell people, when people say, "What do you do for work?" I say, "Well, 20% of the time I'm in meetings, 60% of the time I'm note taking,
Yep.
and then 20% of the time I'm either implementing solutions, designing solutions, or doing some functional testing myself." Um, I emphasize, right, 60% of that is note taking. So, and I mean that. If you look at, I have like a it's basically a knowledge base. So I'm sure you've looked at like Microsoft Learning knowledge base, and it's like just pages of notes. That's how my notes are, and it's not shared to the company. It's literally just for me. If I were to leave the company, I usually will share that entire knowledge base so everyone has it. But
Mhm.
um, that is just for, as you said, that's when if someone says, do you know this concept? Well, since I took notes on it, I know it a little more. But in case I forget in the future, I can just go back to my old notes, and I have pretty
Yeah,
much
right.
everything that I have learned already. So note taking, yes, is probably the number one most important thing in cybersecurity, especially for people who think it's going to be just hacking away at a keyboard. Probably
Yeah.
will, but it's going to be hacking away at the notes, not
At
the
the notes.
Yeah,
not the hacking.
Yeah.
right.
It's like
Yeah.
setting up a
I mean,
network scan and then taking the note while it's scanning.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, specifically, if you like go to a vacation for 2 months, it's what if you forgot a specific vulnerability? So that's how where the note taking comes in, man.
Oh yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah, I
incredible.
mean that happens to me all the time. I forget. I mean, I forgot how old I was the other day. So if it wasn't for note taking, right? All these vulnerabilities that I know wouldn't, I wouldn't be able to reference that, and I'd have to relearn pretty much everything. So, um, extremely valuable. All right. Not to necessarily pivot, but I do think a fun kind of thing while we're on the concept of hacking to talk about are the, well, there's two directions we can take. We can talk about the um, improvements, I should say, to defensive security, blue team, that technically makes the offensive side harder. We can introduce, right, a new apt for the community, or we can talk about one of the controversial things that's going on, right? The OSCP, the
OCP.
offensive security changes. I think it might be a good time to segment into how cybersecurity has gotten harder
Hmm.
and hear your perspective on that, Neswin, since it's still a little relevant to what you're doing, and it's kind of a fresh new take for those who are getting into cybersecurity. Right. So cybersecurity when I was growing up was very basic. We did not have HTML5. I think the latest we had was like 4. Flash Player was still a big thing that has a lot of vulnerabilities now. Windows Defender was like really easy to bypass. I mean, basic script alert one script cross-site scripting attacks worked. There were no web application firewalls. I mean, this the most basic of vulnerabilities just worked. That's
Yeah.
just how it was for me growing up. So, learning in cybersecurity, we learned the basics. Now, working in cybersecurity, I have been working throughout the evolution of cybersecurity. So now we have things like web application firewalls that will block your cross-site request forgery, or your cross-site scripting, as well as your cross-site request forgery. It could block that as well. Um, it will block things like SQL injection. So if you want to perform something like SQL injection, you generally will have to chain it with a server side request forgery plus SQL injection. If you don't know what those terms are,
Go
Google
down the
them,
rabbit
but
hole. Go down.
go down that rabbit hole, figure it out. But the point I'm trying to make is the basic attacks that I learned growing up no longer works. You now have to come up with a more advanced or sophisticated way to execute these attacks. Um, and for someone in high school, like Neswin, going into college, that means you need to learn these sophisticated things that are that cybersecurity has evolved into. You no longer can just be okay with the basics.
Mhm.
So, have you noticed anything getting complex what you're learning so far, and what is your approach on that? Is my question, Neswin.
Yeah, so far I haven't really approached any complex learning in my side, but I think there might be complex learning, but we have tons of resources like ChatGPT, and I have my friends like Boogsta. That guy is insane. Boogsta is really good at web, and he helps mix. He helps me on understanding this complex stuff. And I have you Pap as my mentor on the web hacking. And there's still tons of other friends because when if ever I am having a hard time, I have my network, I have my friends, and I have my mentors, and
Mhm.
there's already tons of resources there. So it's just the hard work that will push you off on understanding these complex things.
Wow, that is a really awesome way to look at things. As things have gotten more complex and hacking, so has resources and ways to help you do that, along with networking and people that you've met. That is that's like a half glass full way to look at things, actually, and I never would have thought of that. You also posted on LinkedIn, I don't think it was recently, but it was a vulnerability you found of, it was SMS, SSO authentication, and you just like used Burp Suite and saw that the code to log in with the SSO or the phone number was right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, can
So
you
what
explain
what
that?
yeah, so what happened there is I was casually talking to friends like he's a developer, he's not a hacker because I have tons of friends on the field. We're having a casual call on the Discord and I was like, hey, how are you? How's your projects on GitHub? What projects you've done? And he showed me his what is this called again? It's like a simple shopping system.
Hmm.
It's like a simple Amazon stuff. Then I check the UI and I check how the web application works and told him I told him, hey, can may I see it? And the hacker instinct comes in because we have a thinking like that, right? We have
Hmm.
a feeling like that, right? Like, oh no, there's something wrong with this. I want to check it out. So the first thing that came up in my mind is this guy is probably implemented a rate limiting on the authentication,
Hmm.
like the OTP. It has a 4-digit code which is brute forceable from 4 zeros to nine fours, like 0000 to 9999.
Hmm.
So I opened up my VM and put up his project link on my VM, and I was about to brute force it with the intruder. Not until when I was observing how the web application responds on my requests, I
Hmm.
put up his email, and man, it the front end leaked the OTP code, and I was like, "What the hell? This was more easier than I expected." So it's a information disclosure,
Yeah.
and I told him, and he said, "Yeah, it was okay since it's only a school projects." So, I mean, yeah, okay,
Okay.
but yeah,
You
that's all.
broke it.
It's like yeah, it's just like I'm just shocked that it took me easier to get in.
That was
Yeah,
That's so cool. I love how you explained like the processes in your mind. That's always so interesting to me to think the thought path of these hackers or intruders. Like, okay, what can I try next? What can I try next? And that's so cool to me how you can explain that so like well, like you really know what you're talking about. Have you ever had anything like that happen to you, Pap, where you just okay, what can I do next?
All the time.
All the time.
I think I'm actually very similar to Neswin in that regard, right? So I'll try something. What can I do next? Try it. What can I do next? Sometimes I'll run a word list on like a dynamic endpoint, which is
Hmm.
pretty much just an endpoint that accepts. It could be like a search endpoint. It could be anything. I just run a word list, and I'm like, maybe the word list wasn't big enough. So I'll try to get a bigger one. And like maybe that wasn't big enough. And then I'll go to like Jay Haddock's word list, the all word list one that's like huge, and then try that one. I'm just like, no, this is not good enough. And so like I'll even think about how much more can I do on this endpoint before even moving on to another one. So all the time, it's just a very tedious process.
Incredible. What was your next transition, Pap? Unless next one, do you have anything to add on to that? Any other vulnerabilities that you found or anything cool out of the ordinary? And
Yeah, so I was curious on how the privilege escalation works on Windows.
Mhm.
So back in like 3 months ago, I was just exploring Windows because I saw what Bookstop did in just a simple application that leveraged him into an administrator. So there's this specific built-in software in Windows that is called what do you call this again? It's like a credential manager, something like that.
Mhm.
Then there's an option to open a notepad, and when you open the notepad, there's like a option to open a text file, right? So I did that, and instead of opening a text file, I ran a command prompt on the file explorer, and it popped a root. So I thought I got a CV. Whoa, I got a CV, and I I searched on Google, and it was a known vulnerability already.
He was all
Yeah,
hype about it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually
Windows vulnerabilities are so if you pop a system shell, it makes it exciting. But for those who aren't familiar with the Windows operating, actually, there's two things I want to say. But one, I have a book that I would recommend.
Uh-oh. Little recommendations.
So if you aren't familiar with the Windows uh,
That's
internals,
what's going
just
crazy, bro.
go ahead and get this. There's like several parts. I have pretty much all parts.
man, that's a crazy book.
But
That's a
it's
crazy
yeah,
book.
it is helpful. One thing I would say to make things simple is think of how the CrowdStrike vulnerability or issue. It wasn't even a vulnerability. It was a bug, like a IT bug. Think of how that worked. Windows requires that some applications run as like an admin level process.
Mhm.
And so what happens is if a process can run as administrator, the question you want to ask is how uh, how can I trick this process into running the command prompt as administrator? So if you're able to trick a process into doing so, well, now you technically have just escalated because now you can enter commands in the context of that process. Back in the day, there was the old Windows tool sysinternals, which is a suite of tools that I actually use for reverse engineering. I use it for reverse engineering malware when running like a dynamic analysis. You can like monitor which processes are popped and what they do, and you can see the malware hide as like SVC hosts and things like that. But one thing that was interesting with that sys internals is there was one tool in there. I can't remember what the name of it is now, but if you run that tool, it latches on to basically kernel level permissions without the Windows doesn't ask you. Well, back then, Windows didn't give you the UWalk screen, which basically asks you like, do you trust the software? It just ran
It's random.
like and then open command prompt as system. So back in the day, right? Like I would have this work laptop and I'm like, I had restrictions and then I would just download sysinternals and just run that command and then it would just pop open like command prompt the system, and then I can just give myself elevator permission. So
Nice.
there are, and that's not the only tool. There are many tools in Windows that has elevated processes that, if you're creative enough, you can utilize to escalate your own privileges.
Nice.
So that's a good call out there, Neswin. Windows is a very interesting operating system. When you start to learn it, you start to learn about things that you would never think about, and stuff like that. So I like learning about it a lot. I'm still learning about how it works, um, and especially that privilege escalation part of it. It's like the most random things, right? Like you can click on a help message, and the help message has like admin permissions. Like whoa, like how did I go from help to system command prompt? So interesting stuff there.
Nice, this one.
Speaking of hacking and privilege escalation, I wanted to talk about the craze that's been going around the internet, and many people have been really upset, especially the ones who want to get into that red team penetration testing kind of field, and have just had their opportunity get that much harder. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the offensive security, right? OSCP has updated their exam. All the memes,
He's mad,
the
bro.
OSCP plus wants the dollar sign.
They want that
Yes. So
money.
that's what the big craze is about. So just to fill you in, Offensive Security is a company that makes an exam called the Offensive Security Certified Practitioner. It's a beginner level penetration testing exam. So a lot of people who want to get into penetration testing will take this exam, get the certification, and that's like proof that they know the bare minimum in order to become a pen tester. Um, when you get the exam previously, it's there forever. The exam is expensive. The cheapest option that is offered for this exam is $900, $899. The cheapest. The most expensive is I think it's like 1700 or something like that, which covers like a full exam course.
Yeah, that's my 10 years grocery.
Right. If you're
Years of
not
grocery.
working in a like a industry already, imagine, right? You're in college, you're working at like a coffee shop. You really want to pay $600-700?
No.
No, right? So changes include for offensive security, and I'm like hating to read this, but changes include effective November 1st. There's going to be So they're making it harder, right? They're adding enhancements to the Active Directory portion of the exam. For those who haven't taken the OSCP exam, it's like 90% Active Directory. So by saying enhancements to Active Directory, it's pretty much I mean, from my experience, it's been all pretty much all Active Directory. And they're removing bonus points. So bonus points were something that you can get on the exam. It could be like in your report and other things like that. So they're removing those, which is going to make the exam slightly harder, I guess, if you're someone who's just trying to be creative instead of like straightforward. The biggest change that is actually costing a lot of people to turn their head is they're now adding a plus. So how this works is if you take the OSCP exam and you obtain the certification, you get a plus sign next to your profile. So it'll say you have OSCP plus. Now you have 3 years in order to renew that certification, or you lose the plus. Now there's two things to mention here. One is, okay, the question that people say is, cool, I lost a plus, but I still have the OSCP exam. Well, the issue there becomes if companies are aware that the plus means that your exam is current, then having no plus next to your name, if you're going to use that on a resume, could basically communicate to a company that you had the OSCP at one point, but the exam has since been outdated, or your knowledge has since been outdated. So you're not good enough for the growing cybersecurity landscape. That goes with the, as I mentioned earlier, with the changes in cybersecurity. The other thing with that plus, to renew your exam, there's 3 ways to renew. You have to pass a recertification exam, which within 6 months of the expiry date. So you have 3.5 years to do it. You have to take or pass another qualifying exam, which, by the way, is usually more expensive than the OSCP. Um, or you have to take a CPE program, which is going to be announced like sometime next year, most likely. Of the two options there, right? Recertification, or the three options: recertification, taking another exam, or a CPE program. The issue is that they're most likely going to come with a cost. And if we're already paying 700 for that exam, taking another exam means every 3 years you need to pay minimum 700 for another exam, or whatever other prices those two would be. So the issue there becomes, okay, now it's a pay to win kind of thing. Um,
EA
this is
games,
not
bro.
a new concept. This is what CompTIA does, which is why I recommend for beginners, once you get your Security Plus or your Net Plus or your CY, SA Plus, Pentest, whatever you want to get in CompTIA, if you get a job with those certifications after 3 years of working in that field, I just recommend not renewing for CompTIA because CompTIA is a beginner level certification. You don't need to renew it if you have, 7,
Yeah.
8, 9 years experience.
It's designed to get
It's
your
not
foot in the door, kind of
right.
thing.
It's not relevant anymore. If you're, I mean, it might be relevant, but it's not. If you're a senior level position, you probably don't want to put Security Plus on your resume. So it's not worth renewing. OSCP might end up becoming something like that. Beginners get the plus, and then the recommendation would be just don't renew it as long as you get your job. Continue the job. Your experience then becomes more valuable than this certification. Um, but I want to talk about that. What do you think about the changes, Neswin? How has that been affecting your journey into getting the OSCP?
I mean, personally, I'll never get OSCP, man. Not even my $1 will touch this OPSEC certs. I mean, I'm not hating them, but I'll just go with the certified penetration testing specialist from Hack the Box.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it's not that industry recognized for now. For now, it's not that industry recognized, but as more people gets it, the more people gets it, and the more Hack the Box markets and networks their own certifications. I think someday it will be a pretty really industry recognized cert because the CPTS exam is actually 10 times harder than OSCP because it's more wide and it's a 10 days exam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and after that, I'll just go with CRTO and CRTL. Then I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder
Yeah.
if companies are going to start leaning towards these other certifications, as you said, even for existing OSCP holders, right? Like OSC Offensive Security is now saying they have to pay $200 and retake the exam if they want the plus, or else their information is not relevant anymore. So it's almost at the point where, and they use the language like uh it shows like the learners like commitment and you know uh and wanting to learn more and things like that. But I think the issue which makes people upset is the average beginner. Well, I wouldn't say beginner because there are some really smart people who can probably ace the OSCP, but the average person who hasn't been working doesn't have enough money to pay for these things. So uh, it's basically turning cybersecurity into a pay to win. There are many people who are very intelligent, but just do not have the amount of money that it would require to take the OSCP, and that's the issue where all these things are coming up. But like you mentioned, these other certifications that might be a lot cheaper. I know Hack the Box released their version of pen test certification that I think is cheaper. I haven't checked the price. I wonder if those will be more valuable for companies because now, hey, this person didn't have enough money. He didn't have a job before, so he couldn't afford this OSCP cert. But here's another cert that's a lot cheaper and covers more material because Hack the Box certs don't just stop at Active Directory, right? They go beyond that.
They're no
So
joke.
it covers more material. And this person has been able to get that. So I wonder if companies will notice that dilemma and shift to other certs, or if cybersecurity would then start evolving to like a pay to win kind of setup, which would be terrible for the industry. What do you
Agreed.
think about that, Grin?
A lot of YouTubers now, like I know Network Chuck, he's doing the Hack the Box one. He's been pushing it really hard. There's a lot of other like cybersecurity YouTubers that I watch. They're like, oh man, the Hack the Box certification is no joke and it's really difficult. And when Neswin told me he was doing it, I was like, dude, like incredible because I know a lot of people who are, for lack of a like better word, like terrified of it. It's no, it's no joke. So Neswin, your journey so far on the Hack the Box certification, what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, their content and their teaching is pretty high quality and they teach things pretty in depth. So
Hmm.
it's really good. But when it comes to web application hacking, I recommend mixing it up with Ports Figure and you'll be really good.
Yeah,
But overall, their Active Directory, their internal and infrastructure security teaching, it's really pretty good.
Mhm.
And if especially if you're a student, you get a US dollar $8 discount monthly.
Nice.
So when so I waited for 3 months for my older brother to get back on his financial situation. I was like, hey, can you sponsor me on Hack the Box Academy? He said, no, I can't for now. And I waited for some months, and what Pap sent me sent me a sponsorship money. Thank you again, Pap. So I was thinking about using it for the Hack the Box Academy, the student subscription, but I was like, man, I can almost buy a CPTS with this, so I'm saving it up for an examination instead.
That's
That's
incredible.
all.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I think it was an investment well made. And also for those who don't know, Neswin actually does he's done some of the editing for some of my YouTube videos. So um I think that was also well deserved.
Nice.
And there are gonna be some other videos that he might be editing as well in the future. So he'll have plenty of sponsorship funds there, I should say.
Dude, investing in the youth, man, that's incredible to see. They're brilliant. That's what your whole video was about, was today's youth is brilliant, Pap, and nuggets, 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 nuggets.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think it's just kind of touching again on this shift in cybersecurity. With brilliant minds, right? It's unfortunate how the industry is changing from, wanting truly brilliant minds to just wanting more money.
Yeah.
You have these tools, I remember, and I won't mention the name of the company, but for my company, I do a lot of vendor sales interviews, and during these interviews, I mean, I just grill them. So salespeople they're great. I know they're just doing their job. They reach out, they're persistent, they cold call, they do all the above. The ones that actually do make it to me, um and if they do make it to the point where I might be interested in the tool for the company I work for, I will sit down and have I call it like an interview, where I just grill them with questions. And I just, every time they answer, I just go one step deeper, and to the point where a lot of the times they kind of get stumped,
Mhm.
because they're salesmen. They're not technical people. So, but I don't ask things that are too technical. I just try to keep it surface level. Um, and when it gets down to the bottom of it, right after these interviews, I just learned that a lot of them, um, they don't really have this new invention. It's really just a copy and paste and wanting more money, right? So I remember one company I asked, they said, well, the avatars on their website, machine learning tool that does this. So we're talking, and I mentioned, okay, well, what about your tools machine learning? So they mentioned, um, oh, that's proprietary. We can't mention that information. That's company secret, right? So, cool, company secret, great. We start talking. Oh, what are some of, like, how does a tool figure out these indicators that are there? Oh, we have a like a what do they call it? They call it like a signature list. Okay, you have a signature list, so it's not machine learning. So I know that part's not machine learning, right? So then we move on, we keep talking, and then eventually, okay, so that's not machine learning either. So you see how as you're talking, you're revealing your company secret, but then you tell me it's company secret to machine learning. So what exactly is machine learning? And eventually they told me, and it had nothing to do with anything that we're going to use the tool with. It was like the machine learning part. Yeah, the machine learning part is like how we audit our own users internally, or something wild like that. And so we didn't go for it, but because they threw that word machine learning in there, the price of this tool was like hiked up. And
Mhm.
um, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to say the company, but they were trying to, like, sell a license for like 3 million a year. Hey, we use machine learning. We can hike up the price. Well, the machine learning is
And
not really used. So and and not to like bash on this kind of company or anything, but it just made me sit down and think, what happened. Like,
Yeah.
we stopped
yeah,
caring about defending our network, and at one point we started to turn this into a cash grab. I want to get money as fast as possible. People join bug bounty because they want money. People want to be a pen tester because they think the money's there, which, by the way, pen testing is probably one of the lower paying cybersecurity domains. Just to, not
Throw
to
that out
burst any
there.
bubbles there. Blue
Yeah.
team, in my experience, blue team has gotten paid significantly more.
Mhm.
People want to make these cybersecurity tools not to help improve the security of these companies and defend against the growing attack space, but for a quick cash grab for money. So,
Yeah.
while I do think getting money is important, I think having
Being honest.
so many hands in the money pot and not enough hands in the, hey, let me focus on security part is hurting the industry as a whole, and also
Yeah.
the kids, you know, going into the next generation, Neswin as yourself going into the security world. Now it's, I need enough money to get into cybersecurity. It's no longer I need to study enough.
Mhm.
So now you're in this weird stage where you can get lucky and find a company that values intelligence, or you can, you know, get sponsored, as you mentioned, get enough money to get these certifications, and now you're qualified to get a job because you've gotten enough money to, to pay to win, kind of
Pay
thing.
your way in.
What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean that signature base is pretty uh I don't know. It's pretty old technique on defending against attack or indicators because signature base is pretty easy to bypass. Just example, I wrote a malware in C++. Then they get the signature of my C++ malware. If I change a single string there, my the whole signature of my program will change. So how will you defend against that if your product is not really using machine learning?
Yep. By the way, signature based, for those who don't know, the most traditional way to do that is to take a hash of the malware. A hash is a one-way function, so you just run a one-way math calculation. If you know any kind of math, right, you know that 1 plus 1 is 2. So if x is 1, then it's always going to be 2, regardless. But if you change x to 2, the output becomes 3. So until you change that file, the hash stays the same. So the
Mhm.
signature stores that hash as a malicious hash. So by changing one string in the file, which is just one character, you essentially change the value of x. Okay, so bypassing signature base, as you said, Neswin, yes, very
Yeah.
easy. It's probably why I did not go with this company at
Dang.
all.
Jeez.
So, and
Brilliant.
most companies, what they do is they monitor for those hashes, and then if one string changes, they update their signature database, and they just keep updating. Um, that is a reactive approach instead of a proactive approach. But in cybersecurity, as we're evolving, taking a reactive approach sometimes might mean you're too late, right? So if you're saying, "Hey, I have a defensive technique, but it only works once we get ransomware." Well, if you get ransomware, you're ransomware. It doesn't matter if it works anymore. You know what I mean? Like if they stole your information, why would you wait till you get stole? So the information gets stolen. Take
Mhm.
action now, so
Yep.
you don't have to deal with that later. Um,
Is that why
yeah,
blue
kind of
teams are
thing.
paid more?
Blue teams are interesting enough. Blue teams are paid more because people think it's just defending against hackers. Um, yes and no. So your most of your job, like I said, is note taking. But for blue team, most of what I've done is work with developers,
Mhm.
and we're basically making sure that things are secured based on what the developers do, and also thinking about how an attacker would try to exploit the system that a developer does. So, blue team, it's called blue team, but you do need to kind of think a little out of the box. You don't need to be like oh, I know exactly how a hacker is going to attack this, but you do need to think on, well, this could be possible. For example, um, when I am in my meetings, especially on like the blue team side, and I'll take like a really really simple, easy example. And a developer, let's say he makes a web application, and he's like, you know, do we need to put like rate limiting or captcha on the login endpoint? Rate limiting basically blocks you if you try to like brute force a login.
Mhm.
Captcha is the same way, right? If you try to brute force a login, captcha will say like, "Are you human?" And you need to like do the
Little game.
It's designed to slow you down and stop scripts. Um, and you, as a blue teamer, you don't need to know how an attacker will attack those things, but you do need to know, well, if we don't use one of them, then the attacker is going to keep trying to get in. But if we put one of them there, it's going to slow the attacker down. So that's what I mean by you at least need to know some kind of tactic, although you don't need to know how they do that tactic. But because you're dealing with that kind of open field, that open kind of thing, I think that's why it's the pay is generally greater, right? If someone gives you an application, they say, okay, well, protect us against all possible attacks that you think are applicable. There's a lot of research you need to do there. But if you're on the red team, you're going to be given a specific scope, right? They're going to say something like, here is one domain, for example. In this domain, we're looking to see if you can fuzz endpoints. You have one specific goal, you know exactly what you need to do, and you're going to research that one thing. The blue team is more of like an open research. You don't know, you're thrown in a position, right? You're thrown in a position. They're like, protect us. Well, you probably need to get paid more if you're going to do that much research, kind of thing.
And
so
that is jeez. It's funny you say that. Company I work for, we were communicating with a hacker, and the hacker told us how they got in, and they gave us all the steps on how to protect ourselves. They went down this long list of things to do to protect yourselves. And then at the very end, they said, it doesn't matter. If we really wanted to get in, we'll get in. You just got to be harder to hack than the next guy.
Yep.
So I was like, that blew my mind. And it was just,
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yep. There was a, this was a long time ago, man. I was reading, I think it was NASA. I need to grab the article, but there was a hack where the blue team did everything in their power to stop this hacker from getting in. And they took over one of the websites. I know how they did it. They applied for a job, got the job, went on as an employee, and as an employee took over the website.
What
that's next level.
You can defend as much as possible, but who's going to try to defend against an employee? And unfortunately, insider threats aren't as
rare.
Well, they do happen, but people don't focus on them as much. So, if an attacker really wanted to, if you think about it, they can just apply for a job, and once you're in, that's give them the position, they give them the permissions they need, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean they have a pretty access control, higher access control privileges, which is has a wider attack surface, which is really dangerous.
Yep,
that's a perfect transition, isn't it, into our next topic? And that's when you want to carry it out.
The what?
About APT? What is it? APT 60, right?
Yep. APT.
Oh yeah, the APT 60.
Yeah.
Bring it in.
They're another advanced persistent threat. They're using tactics that are interesting, right? And Neswin can also talk about this some, but the way it works is they have this it's like think of like Office, almost like Microsoft Office. It's called let me grab the name actually. What's it?
WPS Office. It's the competency of Microsoft Office, but they are free. I actually used them before when I don't have the license to buy a Microsoft Office. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was an open source thing. So it's not like the Linux one, Libra. It's different. It's WPS.
Yes.
Office.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
WPS Office. The way it works is they send a user a legitimate link, which is like a document in this WPS Office. The user clicks on it. From the user's end, it actually opens like a document. But on the back end, it installs the Spyglaze backdoor, which is a Trojan.
Yeah.
The way a Trojan works is it generally masks itself as a legitimate program. So in this case, it would be masking itself as this document, and then it would go and hide, usually in System 32, as another legitimate program. In this case, I don't know what program this hid in. I didn't actually look into the how the Spyglaze.
I think it was like a Excel spreadsheet kind of thing, and it was just an image, a blank Excel spreadsheet, and they would click on a random cell, and that would be them clicking on the image, which would execute and install itself. Right, Neswin? You probably know more
Yeah,
about this than I do.
yeah, it's actually what I read is it's actually a zero day attack. It's a zero click attack on the IPTC 60. So what they did here is give give me a second to read the DLL that they attack. Hmm. Right. So the library that coded by Promessive plugin host.exe, that it's their own package which is signed by the company. So that is the vulnerable WPS office that they leverage into executing command execution and be able to execute the Trojan. So it's basically a mix of exploit and malware development. Those are the high value malware and found only by threat actors. I mean not threat actors but APDs and really insane people in the
Mhm.
industry. Yeah, a good example is also remember the old, is it what's that attack again? The SMB plus ransomware.
Oh, WannaCry.
Yeah, the WannaCry. It's like that. It's like that.
Yep, yep, very
They
similar. Um, yeah, I think this is an interesting one too, because even in this attack chain, this advanced persistent threat, where does it start? Right, it starts with them sending a link to a user.
Mhm.
So once again, you can be as tight as you want with security, but if your users you know, aren't aware, you're getting hacked.
Mhm.
Which is one of those things
yeah.
again where blue team, you can't think of everything. Well, you could, but
That one employee just
still gonna get in.
cooks you.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And this advanced group is interesting. At least I thought it was interesting because they seem to be targeting like East Asia, which there's a specific country that our guest speaker lives in that is part of East Asia, right off the coast of like east of what is it, like southeast of Japan or something like that, right? Um, Philippines. So I figured that'd be that's an interesting thing because although in the U.S. we probably won't see much activity from this group, there's a good chance as Neswin, if this group continues to persist, as Neswin continues in his career, he might encounter them, maybe in a company, maybe just in
Research
another news
purposes.
article, maybe in a research or something like that. Um, yeah, I want to get in and just to get your your thoughts there, Neswin.
Yeah, they have a pretty good knowledge about internal applications. Like the book you showed earlier, Pap, the Win Internals. That book really helps on surfing or getting more knowledge about how Windows internal works and also developing the prerequisites knowledge for Windows exploitation, which what the group also showed.
That is so interesting to me, following the attack vector. And I think you said earlier or off camera that it wasn't on MITRE yet, so we don't really know the full extent, maybe, but
Yep. So
still interesting.
they've been active since 2021. Spyglaze, that Trojan, has been identified or discovered in 2018. So I think the app C60 is relatively new. It's
Hmm.
only been roughly 3 years. So I have not seen it on MITRE, the MITRE report. They also are known as App Q12. So maybe App Q12 might be MITRE, who knows? But there's a good chance. Yeah, there's a good chance they might make it to that board. And for them, that's an accomplishment. For us, that's just something to look into as far as like, okay, here's another tactic. Because every pen tester, whether they like it or not, or agree with it or not, the fact of the matter is every pen tester has their own style.
Hmm.
And as a blue teamer, we love to read these styles. We love to look it up. Have any of you guys played football at all?
A little bit.
Have you ever Tape watch.
American football.
American football. Yeah.
American.
Sorry, we're soccer is not soccer. Soccer is soccer in the U.S. It's not called football. So, but have you ever tape watched?
That's
You
one.
know what that you know
No.
what that is?
I don't
So,
know what that is.
and tape watching is like blue team. So I played football very little. I played basketball most of my life. Same with basketball. I would tape watch as well. When you're in
Yeah,
an organized environment and you're getting ready to face a team, you're like, okay, this team is good. What you do is you just go on YouTube and you look at
their
the
plays.
team's games from
Hmm.
before, and you listen to little things. Like you might hear the coach say formation five, and then you watch how they line up. So in football, the same thing. If they're like, uh, playing alpha, you watch how they line up and you watch the routes they take. So when you're out there on the field and you hear, like in football, formation alpha, you tell your team, hey, this guy's getting ready to go long and they're going to throw it past him at the touchdown. I saw this on TV.
Hmm.
I saw this on YouTube. Then they call an audible. An audible is when you change your play, like, during, like before hiking the ball. So they call an audible. Change to Bravo. Hey, Bravo means he's going to cut in the middle. Change to Charlie. Charlie means he's going to cut out to the side. What are they going to do? You know all their plays because you're the blue team now. So now they're stuck being creative. They hike the
Yeah,
ball and they just have to do whatever you want to do. I don't know at this point. They
yeah.
know all of our plays. Same with basketball, right? They say 2-3 zone. Okay, 2-3 zone. We'll know exactly how to do that. We switch to plan alpha. And they're like, okay, 3-2 zone, playing Bravo. Man, okay, playing Charlie. Boom. And the idea is that you study this other team so much, they need to either think of a play off the top of their head out of nowhere, or they just need to free play. And you want them to free play because that's when they start breaking down and they don't really know how to play
Messing
as a
up.
team. So blue team is very similar to that, right? So we want to look at these apps and we want to see how their style is. Same thing with these other hackers. We want to see how their style is because we know their style. Cool. You want to go in through Plan Alpha in your app group? We got Plan Bravo for that. You know what I mean? So that's
Nice. That's
that's a
cool
little
analogy.
secret to the blue team there.
Really cool analogy. Earlier we were also talking that the vulnerability was on, or the virus was on Virus Total, and in February, my question is, Neswin, have you ever used Virus Total? What are the benefits of Virus Total, and what was the what was the virus that was on Virus Total?
Yeah, the virus and the virus total is the spy-based malware. It's the
Hmm.
Trojan that they develop and chain with the exploit on the
Hmm.
WPS office. So I personally, when I was really paranoid before, when I was 12, I always use virus total like on every program, on every APC. but but nowadays, I don't really use virus total, especially for when I develop my own payload or my own malware. I don't use virus total because it what I heard from my friends is virus total actually stores the malware on their site. So
Hmm.
I don't want my malware to be spreading on someone's hands, and I want to keep it private. So I use alternative websites
Okay,
instead of virus total.
nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, a
Do you
little
use
little. Sorry, go ahead.
no, just gonna say, do you use Joe Sandbox at all?
Ooh,
Not yet, but
question. Not yet. That's expensive, isn't it?
Joe Sandbox? It used to
Yeah.
be free. Is it?
Really? I think you
Yeah, it
can
used to
do
be.
like a couple free ones, but it's not. I don't know. I only use it through my company, so.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used it in a while, but it
Mhm.
used to be free. It's when Virus Total started to get so Virus Total is like community run now,
Mhm.
where if you upload a virus, the signature is collected and it takes a while for them to update. But if you go to like there's like a community tab almost,
Mhm.
I forget what it's called. Oh, it literally is called community, and then you have users that will upload their information,
Very
and
cool.
so it takes a while, right? Like sometimes it can take like 10 months for you to upload something and say, here's what I found from investigating. Joe Sandbox basically is like an automated
Yeah.
investigation site. So it will go
Run the
and
virus.
run the virus and tell you what it's found.
Mhm.
So I found that to be helpful. If it's paid now, then maybe not as much.
Maybe that is. Sorry, this is totally, I don't know, kind of random, but Neswin, are you more interested in in malware development, or are you more interested in like web development, penetration testing, blue like what is your favorite thing to do
It's
at
really hard to answer because I enjoy all things that I do. I
yeah.
enjoy web hacking, I enjoy Active Directory, web malware development. But I think, yeah, if I'll ever retire, like at the age 60, 70, I think I'll just stick to writing malwares for fun. So, yeah, I think the most thing that is my favorite is malware development. But for now, I'm not really focusing into it because you can
Mhm.
you can't really technically get a job from developing
Developing
malware.
malware.
Yeah.
I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Like if you know if you develop malware and you know how the malware works, that makes it easier to pen test or to defend against because you kind of have that eye like, okay, I can go look through this source code and say, okay, here's something here that shouldn't like maybe like a rev shell or like a reverse script or a backdoor that shouldn't be there. So I
Yeah.
guess what your point is, it's all kind of connected and they all kind of feed off of each other, all your different what's the word, Pep? All your different avenues kind of work together
Yeah,
in that
but
sense.
malware development is pretty useful for red team operations because you gotta develop your own malware for evasion because like on the hack the box boxes
Hmm.
you can't just drop a reverse shell.
Yeah,
It will alert
flag
the
it.
ADRs or the
Yeah.
defensive security measures, so you have to use your specific malware with your own malware technique to bypass defensive measures. So that's where the malware development comes in on red team operations. But not all red team operations are like that.
Really?
Yeah, so you hit a good point, right? So um things like so hack the box goes on that reverse not the command injection, you get like code execution, things like that, and then you can get like a reverse shell, which is probably the most common method that people use in hack the box. But in the real world, yes, there are things like EDR, and although you can use things like process injection, right? So like just having the process run a command for you instead of having to run malware. Um, Even that can be difficult, right? Because then you have to find a process that would be able to do that. And if that process doesn't exist, I mean, you can try like DLL hijacking, like dynamic
Yeah,
loop library hijacking. Again, if a Windows system is locked down, that's also going to be difficult. So your next bet is to try to figure out, okay, what EDR do they use, and what are some common evasion techniques, and then build off of that kind of thing.
That's so funny you say that. Actually, I was doing a hack the box with Coat actually, and I was taking notes in my Kali Linux like Obsidian, and I copied my rev shell that I used and put it in my notes, saved it, and I wanted to save it to my host. And as I dragged the file from my Kali Linux machine to my host, it flagged it. And I was like, wait, no, I it flagged my rev
yeah,
shell. And I was like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, I made the mistake of developing a website on Windows, right? So so I developed this website in my IDE, and then I'm like, okay, let me test this. So I use Node Package Manager to just deploy with like I think I was using React JS. Deployed it, and as soon as I deployed it, Windows Defender is like, oh, there's a listener on this computer, and just like destroyed all the code.
Oh, man.
I had a backup. I kept a backup in like my private repo, but just like okay, like it's not gonna work here. I
It's
need,
like,
they don't make it easy to disable Defender. I don't. I
mhm.
mean, it's probably not recommended anyway. But
Yeah.
in order to disable Defender, you have to literally go through PowerShell. So it's probably easier if you're gonna develop a website at this point to just use a Linux box.
Mhm.
yeah. I have Linux on my host.
Yeah, you're like a Linux god, Neswin. That's why I had to ask for
No,
your help on that hack the box. Oh
yeah. I
man.
mean, when I was starting Hack the Box, I encountered the same problem as you. I was like, I did a open VPN command and I put the parameter for the OVPN file. I was like, well, I can connect. I've been troubleshooting it for like 2 days already. Then I realized I just have to sudo and it
Pseudo, yeah,
work.
yeah. Oh my God. He's like, bro, pseudo. I'm like, oh, you're right, pseudo.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
I had that. I think I had that same issue when I first started. I'm like, what do they mean permission denied? And then
What?
pseudo.
So, kind of transitioning here, Neswin. What are your future plans after high school? I mean, you're young, you're really brilliant, you're killing it with your studies, you're killing it with your independent studies, and so what's after? What's next? What's the journey, man?
Yes. Yeah, so before talking about that, I just want to drop a random thought.
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
when I was when I was a beginner, I always wanted to become an APT myself.
Bro,
I
you're
was like, yeah, I wanted to become an APT myself. I thought it's legal. I thought I will be really cool.
uh
Then when my friend talked to me and I did some research, man, these guys are wanted. They have to go. So yeah, that's just a random thought.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Did you hear the recent? There's like a bounty that was it FBI? Um, there
FBI
was a
bounty.
bounty that was put on a hacker, two
Uh-oh.
point five million dollars. Secret Service. They put a 2.5 million bounty on Voldemar,
Hmm.
the hacker dude. So
mhm.
anyone who turns him in can collect 2.5 million.
Wait, that's
And
the Lockbit, right? Guy who
yes,
Lockbit,
yep.
yeah.
Well, he also has so many other things
So
that
many
he's
other
doing, but
ventures.
yeah, he uses malware religiously. But yeah, I mean, right? Like you want to be an apt. I mean, not you personally, but like anyone who wants to be an app. This is the
What you have to look forward to.
what you have to look forward to, right? Having a 2.5 million bounty on your head now means that you probably can't trust your own friends and family. So,
Yeah, you're
you're
you're cooked.
You're straight
right,
cooked.
right. I mean,
Straight cooked.
telling you right now, my brothers would turn me in a heartbeat if I had a
Hmm.
bounty on my head. Not even a million. If I had like a $2,000 bounty, I'm getting turned in.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think I could live my life looking over my shoulder like that. I'd rather just be the good guy. And
Yeah, it's not really worth it.
no, it's not. Sorry, I kind of jumped the gun there too. Neswin, how did you get into this? Did we even talk like what inspired you to do cyber? I mean, how did you get so smart?
Oh yeah, about that I mentioned this to Pep before. So when I was 7, my brother demonstrated a simple social media attack or a social media stealing by intercepting the traffic of my network.
Hmm.
So he said, hey, Neswin, log into your Facebook. I will get your password. So I said, eh? Then he said my password on plain text. So I was like, what the hell? How did you do that? So I said, okay, I will change my password. And if you did it again, I'll believe that you're a hacker. Then he did it again, man. He did it 5 times. He said my plain text password in front of my eyes. So I was like, man, that's real. I'm really curious. I'm really intrigued into it. As a kid, I really had the curiosity.
Hmm.
So I did research on how to become a hacker, how to start, but I don't have the maturity enough to interpret on how to start. Do you get me?
Yeah.
Like I don't have the maturity enough or the knowledge enough on logical approach on should I study networking first, Linux,
Yeah.
etc. So I seek help from from some of my cousins that I want to become a programmer first.
Hmm.
But they refuse. They refuse to taught me or at least to guide me because they think I'll become a bad guy. So
Bad guy.
I was like, yeah, I was like, name. I gotta figure it myself out. So I became a script kid and I thought I thought I am being yeah, you know this cringe IP pinger stuff, DDoS.
DDoSing
Yeah,
people.
yeah, when I started from this stuff and those doxing, the skills. Yeah, it all started from this stuff, and as time goes by, I was able to learn Python,
Mm-hmm.
which is a pretty basic language, and I was coding like 3 hours a day that time, and it's pretty. I code pretty bad back in the days because I really don't know how to debug, and I mostly just use APIs. And when I reached 11, pandemic happened, COVID. I know you guys know it, COVID.
Mm-hmm.
When it started to spread, I became pretty depressed for 3 years. I had anxiety, an Asperger's syndrome, and an OCD.
Mm-hmm.
But as time goes by, with the help of people with the proper therapy, and um, I was able to recover and just get back on my feet after some years of recovering. And yeah, then when I became 15, uh, I was able to go to personal development. Then I dive deeper into this freelancing platforms. I was able to learn graphic designing, video editing, social media management, and etc. Then I was earning some money and trying to help out my parents. But when I realized for the first time, I reflected, why am I even doing this when I don't even like those things? And when I turn back from my past, I remember, man, I want to become a hacker. I want to become a hacker. So I did deep research, and like what I mentioned earlier, I joined that community cybersec students.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned networking course and operating system, then the computer science fundamentals, and so on.
Nice.
That's all. That's
Yeah.
how just I got into the field,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also because I wanted to. What drives me more right now is the financial state of my parents. I just really want to help them out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's all.
that's incredible, man. I never really sat and thought about how the youth were affected by COVID and lockdown because, when it hit, Pap and I mean, I was working as a physical therapist. So for me, it was like COVID never even happened. And I still went to work every day and came home. Um, so I never thought like, man, how did the kids react to this? Because they just go to school and, play and do kid things. So then they couldn't do that anymore. So it's really interesting to hear. And then I'm glad that you recovered and you're excelling, and it's incredible to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really tough, but yeah, I survived.
Not only that,
We
you
have to.
Yeah, I was
succeeded.
gonna say the same. I mean, I was already working in
Hmm.
cybersecurity, so I remember it the day that COVID, or I guess the day that COVID got out of control. My boss came up to me and shook my hand and basically said, "This might be the last time I see you." I said, "Yep, I heard the news." And then he's like, "Yeah, we'll be indefinitely working remote from now on." And he was right. That was the last time I saw him. That was like six years ago.
Yes.
No, it wasn't. It was 4 years ago. And I mean, I could see him again. I don't live in that area anymore. So,
Mhm.
but one thing that I did think, right, like I was already out of school. I had already um, gotten my bachelor's degree. I was in a master's. I was already in a master's program.
Mhm.
I right before I started my master's program, COVID started. So we just got the you guys do it remote kind of thing,
Mhm.
the master's program, so it wasn't hard to do it
Yeah.
remote. I've already been through school, so I did think about like, okay, well, there are people who are still in middle school, high school. I remember how much the human interaction helped me, especially when asking a lot of questions and having to be able to answer those questions. Um, Being things like distractions, like I would have to sit in the front of the class so I don't get distracted. I think being online in high school I would be way too distracted to focus.
Yeah.
So I did think about those things like how that affects the kids these days, especially with those short attention spans. There's a lot of negatives there, and so I applaud any of the kids who have made it through, even with
Persevered.
those like changes. Exactly.
Dang. No, incredible story, Neswind. I guess that kind of rolls
Yeah.
back to my original question was what's next for you, man? What's the future looking like?
Yeah. So my future is I just applied to AV Tokyo, Cold Blue, and this upcoming TenguCon named by a hacking conference that will
Hmm.
be organized by mentor from Japan. So I applied to this three Japanese hacking conference to speak on because I mean why not? It will increase my credibility, my influence, and it will also build up my network. And after that, those it's actually around November, in November 13, 14, 15, 16. But I don't know if I'll get accepted to Cold Blue because getting inside those hacking conferences is not that really easy.
Not the easiest.
But I have a yeah, but I have a pretty good chance on the two ones, which is the AV Tokyo and the TengoCon, because my mentors is already in there.
Hmm.
Then after that, on the school end, I'll be taking the certified penetration testing specialist certification from Hack the Box, and yeah, I'll just continue to upskill and just keep going.
Hmm.
And whenever I reach senior high school, maybe around grade 12 or grade 11, I think I'll start working as a security consultant,
Hmm.
mm, to help
Nice.
my yeah. Because I was tired enough to see my mother really tired from doing stuff,
Hmm.
and my sick father. So I have to do it like a
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. No, I'll
Yeah.
100% applaud you, and I'm 100% behind you on that one. That's when I'm excited to see where you go, and I'm rooting for you 100%.
Thank you, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I'm following the journey. You're in the server, so I get to see the journey. Excited to see where you go, and I'm curious to see, that first job, like, 5, 6 years from now when you're done with college and get that first job. I'll be rooting. I might be a little older, might have some gray hairs,
Yeah.
but I'll be rooting for you.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to add, Pap? Any other questions?
No, I mean, I know Neswin, I know you pretty well. Again, if anyone here wants to chat with Neswin, join the server, hit him up. Neswin's, as you mentioned, Grant, he's a great guy.
Absolutely.
If you're into Hack the Box, he's more than happy to jump on to kind of work with these boxes with you. He's happy to go through these challenges, any CTFs. I mean, if you want to partner with those kind of things, or if you need like a rival to learn, he's your guy. Like
Yeah.
he'll, he just jumps in. He
He's
jumps
always
into
in there.
any of
He's
those
always
things.
trash
Yeah, he's
talking. I
always,
love
yeah,
it.
exactly. He's always in there. And I think, especially if you're someone who's like, I want to learn, I just need someone to learn with because it's hard to do it alone.
Mhm.
That's one's your guy. Like
Yeah,
you'll learn a lot working alongside him.
man. And go watch that video with Pat because it's a good video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll link that. Um, Watch that one. We'll link it in the description so you can watch it. And again, comment below if you want to contribute to the conversation. We read those comments. Actually, we love reading those comments. There's some good contributors there. Um, and if you wanted to meet any of us, join that server.
Hmm.
Reach out. We'll be here.
We're always talking.
Always talking. So
Did we miss anything this one? Is there anything you want to add?
Not really much, but I think I'll just give a pretty little advice for kids like me who is 16, 15, 14, or anything
Hmm.
that's still in high school. I think don't listen don't listen to your teachers that much to focus on studying and just shove your head on these books and notebooks. You have to find your ambition. You have to,
Hmm.
like, if you want to become really good at cybersecurity, You don't have to really get that achievers, honors of school. Don't be peer pressured, and don't be afraid to become a black sheep for a little while,
A
because it
black sheep
will
for
all pay off. Yeah,
yeah.
it will all pay off on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all.
once you find out what you want to do, um, persist, and it's that extra work that really counts, I think, outside of school. Like you don't just come home and play video games and do the silly stuff.
Yeah,
Like you really dedicated, and it really shows. It really shows. Incredible stuff to be doing at 16.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Book smart is not the end all be all.
Hmm.
It's good to read the books to get the knowledge, but if you're not actually applying that knowledge, you're going to be lost.
Yeah.
You're confused, lost, and you won't know what to do, especially when things hit the fan
Hmm.
and people are relying on you because you read the book. You're not going to have that muscle memory to be able to apply what you learned.
Hmm. Yeah. I was very nervous about bug bounty, and then I was like, where do I start? What do I do? Do I learn this? Do I learn that? No, I just jumped in. I finally was like, I'm just gonna start.
yeah.
And some guys were online, like, oh yeah, dude, like let's do it. Let's do it. And so we all just kind of jumped in, and I was like, oh, look what I found. Like, oh, that's out of scope, buddy. Sorry, can't use that. I was like, oh, okay. But I just started. I just started. And that's sometimes the best avenue.
Yeah, I love the community for that. There, I'm part of that, right? I'm part of that community. Like, no, you can't use that out of scope, out of scope. But then it's like, wait a minute, you might have something here. Let's take a look. Um, and contrary to, I know a lot of people say like the hacking community can be really harsh. I think it's the opposite, right? I
Hmm.
think like they can be really helpful. They're probably harsh if you're going in with the wrong intentions, but
Hmm.
most of the time people just want input, people just want to help.
Yeah. Especially if you just want to learn. People love to just help out and teach on there. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they ask like, I have some people, I use fuff instead of like burp suite when I'm brute
hmm.
forcing. I use fuff instead, and people are like, why are you using fuff? Just use burp suite, it's so much easier. And it's
Yeah.
like, right, like those comments, like it's you can't take them. It's people just joking. Like they prefer burp suite. I prefer to use fuff because I have burp suite pro, but
Hmm.
I'm in this whole like phase where I'm trying to emulate, almost like emulate. Is it possible to bug hunt without using paid tools? So
Okay.
I use like
Cool.
all the free tools like Fuff and things like that, and I use less of Burp Suite
Hmm.
because the community features are very limited to like the proxy intercept kind of thing. Um, but yeah, just I get those comments sometimes, and I'm like, you guys got jokes.
Guys, all right, guys,
do,
let's
do,
relax.
do you have Parrot Top or Kali, or you made your own?
I use
Or you
Ubuntu.
made your own? Oh, it is Ubuntu.
Yep. So I use one of two things. I use WSL for Windows on
Hmm.
Ubuntu, and then I also have a portable terminal called MOBA Xterm. And a portable is literally you just unzip it and it's a terminal. Take it wherever you want.
Nice. Dang. That's going over my head. I'm not there yet. Man, well, I guess what we've come to the end. This is it.
Yeah,
You're
Thank
gonna
you
sing
so
us
this is
out.
much.
it.
I want to sing you out. Dude.
No, thanks so much, Neswin. Thanks for you know joining, being our guest speaker today. I'm sure we've learned a lot. I don't think I need to reiterate. If you did not learn, you need to rewatch this video because
Spin it
those
back.
those dino nuggets, absolutely those dino nuggets. But thanks again for watching another episode 4 now, right?
Dang, we're
Comment
flying.
below. Yeah, comment below your thoughts on any points. We'll try to add timestamps this time so you can
Mhm.
see those timestamps. Comment below if you have anything to add, any points you want to make, if you want to agree, disagree, if you want to debate. I don't know, whatever you guys like to do. Whatever you guys like to do, comment below. Make sure you check out the server. We'll post that in the description, and definitely go and watch the Neswin interview that he and I had. It has a lot of great things, especially if you're someone who's looking to get into the cybersecurity field.
Mhm.
I think that's it. I think on that note, we could call it.
Let out. Thanks again, Neswin. Anything you got to say? Closing words?
Not much. Yeah, not
Okay,
much. I
cool.
think Thank you,
Yeah,
Pap and Grant, and just keep going, guys.
Yeah.
We'll see you all at the top soon.
See you in the server, man. Peace.
exactly. See you guys.